Talk of the Trollway spotlights Mount Horeb, Wisconsin's unique artists, entertainers, hobbyists, and personalities. Funding for Talk of the Trollway is provided by Miller & Sons Supermarket.
Dave Kunkle's four-rotor remote-control drone sounds like a swarm of bees up close, and the high-flying machine gets almost as much attention, if it is seen at all. With a camera mounted underneath the spinning blades, he has snapped a few photos for the pages of the Mount Horeb Mail and created a handful of videos for family and friends. On this episode of Talk of the Trollway, Dave provides a new perspective on the familiar landscapes around Mount Horeb as he introduces us to the joys of taking to the sky. I'm your host, Gary Schutz.
Kind of a nerdy kind of guy, so the techie aspect of it, I found fascinating. The fact that, connects to the GPS satellites. I've got an iPod here, and that's how it runs. I find that fascinating, and so that was the initial aspect that kind of got my attention. Second, there was a story in Minnesota about a drone delivering beer, and so when it comes down to beer delivery, you have to be interested. We live in Wisconsin. And third, it just, I like taking photos. I like taking videos. So it just kind of, the combination of all of those has really been a cool experience to have this. I've flown remote control helicopters in the past. Nothing with the technology and features that this has. Growing up, I played on the Apple IIe computers, the flight simulator game on that, which was it was really easy to take off, impossible to land. Really, having an experience in that doesn't necessarily make me better at this at all. This kind of works completely differently and with such ease that I'm not sure how much extra study is needed. This, first off, flies with GPS,
Okay.
and so it connects to satellites. So when I get it started, it connects to upwards of 12 satellites, and upon raising it out of the air, it is stable. It won't move unless I tell it to.
So those satellites are communicating with it and saying, here's your position. Keep self-adjust yourself to stay in that position.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. So winds can come by, and it'll hover remarkably stable and stay in its spot. As far as flying, it is so intuitive. It is so simple. I'd like to say that I'm really smart, and it takes all this technology. It's really forward, back, left, right, up, and down.
Okay. So there's no special training involved?
I watch some YouTube videos. So, which I think is how most people learn how to do complex things. And there's training manuals provided that I read through. But really, upon my first flight of it, I felt competent. Now, in the time since then, I feel way more confident in my ability to get close to objects, my ability to circle smoothly around, if I'm taking videos, smoothly around objects. And it does have some safety features, so if you were to go beyond that range, so if I were flying it straight out, and eventually the Wi-Fi would kick out, but eventually you'd get outside the range of the remote. The quadcopter would realize that, acknowledge the fact that you had gone out of range, and return to the spot that you took off from within about a 6-foot radius.
So it uses that GPS to
Correct.
Essentially come home.
Come home, and that's what the screen will say. It'll say, coming home. The coming home feature is not flawless. It's not going to recognize a tree that you're going to run into. It tries to go about 40 feet up in the air and then drop straight down from there. This model can fly really high, and I know that's not really an exact measurement. On YouTube, I've seen videos of people fly it well over 1,000 feet.
Okay.
Per a recommendation, I've kept it under 400 feet. And so 400 feet is the tops that I've got, and that's straight up. As far as distance from here, instead of straight out, or straight up, out, again, there's videos out there of people going a mile with it, 1.5 miles. I stay within direct eyesight of it, so I can see it. I
You
never
keep
want
it
to.
in sight.
Yep, I never want to lose it. I think that's really unsafe flying and just asking for trouble. Maybe to describe what it can do, maybe we should talk about what it can't do first.
Okay.
So those mid-air acrobatics, the barrel rolls, it's not going to do that.
Sure.
The flying real fast, you know, I want it to zip across the field. It can get going pretty quick, but it's more for cruising. What it can do is it gets up there and gives you a perspective that's unmatched, in a real view of what a beautiful area we live in that's so rarely seen. When you look down at Stewart Park from 250 feet, you realize what a cool place. You get out in those rolling hills out by Tyrrell Basin, and just how neat it is there, and what a picturesque place we live in.
So how often do you get out and take excursions like that? How often do you do those sorts of things?
You know, when I got it every day, I'd get up at about 5 in the morning and trek out somewhere before school started. Now it's more, I don't know, a couple times a week. I'll be like, oh, I wonder what Donald Park looks like at 5 in the morning. Or I wonder what the sunset's going to look like out Bergham Road. Generally, I just fly when it's nice,
Sure.
when it's calm, when it's sunny, partly because it makes for great pictures, great video. The other is I feel like I have a little bit more control. That's one of the challenges flying here is as windy as Mount Horeb is. When you get up at 150 feet, a light breeze down here is way more up there. So I have flown it in light rain as well, and that doesn't bother it. There was several weeks ago a storm approaching, and I flew it up as the storm was approaching, and kind of an interesting view. Come winter time, the specifications that kind of fly above 20 degrees. But other than that, it's kind of all weather. Everything that the camera is seeing, I see through on my iPod, or if you had an iPhone or an iPad even. It connects through its own Wi-Fi network. So image comes from the camera, connects through Wi-Fi to the iPod, and I'm able to see, along with other information, how high I am, how fast I'm going, what direction I'm facing. I can control the angle of the camera, either by a button on the iPod, or even by tilting the entire device. It can realize that and will adjust with that.
Okay.
It's the nicest camera I've ever owned, and it's mounted to a helicopter, which is pretty cool. Most of the stuff that I'm filming, I'm right next to. You know, most of the time I'm right under it or very close to it.
What have other people's reaction to the drone been?
Most people are fascinated by it and find it just a remarkable technology, engage me in questions about, okay, how does it work? Can I see the iPod? Can I get a view of the screen? You just took a photo. Can I have a copy of that photo? So overwhelming majority has been extremely positive.
Sort of interested in the technology.
Yeah. And it is a magnet for attention. We'll have it there, and people just gather. I have had a couple of interesting reactions with people who are maybe not as supportive. And this is at recently at the art fair. I was asked to take some video, just quick hovering over take a video down Main Street, turn around, come back. And I got done, and I'm coming to land it. There's this guy who's approaching me, and I know he seems confrontational. Like, okay, where's this one gonna go? And in this time, he informed me that he's from Chicago, and he's being watched all the time there. And he comes up here to get away from being watched, and here I am watching him again. It can take incredibly detailed photographs. It could probably be used for malicious intent, I'll say. Using this, I think, comes with responsibility, to use it responsibly. In case of the art fair, we were at a public place.
Sure.
I wasn't focusing in on him. I was taking a bit of video. Far different if he's in his backyard.
Absolutely.
And I hover over there. The drones suffer from a public relations nightmare. If you can invent a product and then put a name on it, probably the worst thing you can call it is a drone. Something that, I mean, immediately people have those connotations of, okay, it's going to be used for spying or it's going to be used for killing.
Military applications.
Correct, exactly. This has more in common with those $30 helicopters that you can buy in the mall than it does with any type of technology like that. It's not a toy. It takes a competent user. It takes a dedication to learn how to operate it safely. It's easy to fly, but it can be really easy to make dumb decisions when you're flying.
Can you give me an example?
Sure. So we're at Stewart Park. Hey, I wonder what the people at the beach look like. I'm going to fly it down to the beach and try to get close-ups of the people at the beach. So that would not be good for anyone. There are some common sense rules. You probably want to avoid highly populated areas. There's been stories of people flying over crime scenes or car accidents. Gawker video, that could be done.
Is there a commercial use for something like this?
Certainly, and I'm sure many people heard about Amazon.com came out and said, you know, within 2 years we want our packages shipped by drone. And people kind of scoffed at that, like, oh,
sure.
You know, that's not going to happen. But the reality is the technology's there. The need's probably there. I think of something that I buy on Amazon, if I could have it in a half hour, how neat's that? But I mean, to think of that as just really shortchanging the impact that these can have. And not just this one. I mean, this one's photo and video.
Sure.
They can be used for agriculture, flying over crops to see how healthy the plants are.
Sure.
If there's irrigation issues. It could be used for search and rescue. There's a story, 82, 83-year-old man was missing for 3 days. They asked a guy who has a model nearly identical to this to help out. He found the man in 20 minutes. You think of environmental concerns or migratory patterns. I know some universities out in, I believe, Colorado are using them to track the migration of sandhill cranes. That when sandhill cranes bed down at night, they can fly by with a heat detecting camera on one of these and count how many sandhill cranes they have. Universities are doing hurricane research on them, sending these out in the early formations of hurricanes, because they can get more information about the causes of hurricanes. They can better predict its path. They're going to save lives. They're going to save money. It's going to benefit everyone.
Does this interact at all with your daily life as an English teacher?
Well, that's funny because anytime I see a student and I'm flying it, they go, so, you're going to fly that in the classroom? Which it has crossed my mind more than once, but I think it'd be tough to rationalize to a parent. How did my child receive a laceration? Well, I was flying a drone in the class, so I don't know. If I want my students to take away one thing, it's to follow your passion, to follow your hobbies, to follow your interests. So I think it's cool when I see students out and they see that I'm doing this, and yeah, there's Dorky Mr. Kunkle flying his drone, and I don't know, it's kind of neat though.
On the next episode of Talk of the Trollway, we'll get a little more down to earth when we visit with Michael Kelly, a Mount Horeb sculptor who builds his artistic creations out of clay. And whatever else he might find lying around. I'm your host, Gary Schutz.
Talk of the Trollway is a production of Mount Horeb, Wisconsin's village cable station, Trollway TV. Funding for Talk of the Trollway is provided by Miller & Sons Supermarket. Talk of the Trollway is on Facebook, where your comments and story ideas are welcome.